The clock on the mantelpiece struck midnight, the rhythmic ticking echoing through the empty halls of my home in the suburbs of Chicago. I sat alone in the dim light of the living room, the ceiling fan spinning slowly overhead, casting long, tired shadows across the walls. For 3 days, a heavy silence had hung over my life. My son, David, a brilliant architect and my only pride, hadn't called. He never missed our Sunday talk. The silence was broken by the sharp, jarring ring of my cell phone. My heart leapt into my throat as I saw the name on the screen. Beatrice, my daughter-in-law, a woman whose smile never quite reached her cold, calculating eyes. From the moment David brought her home, I felt a chill in my bones. She didn't love my son. She loved the prestige and the estate he was building. I took a deep breath and answered the call with trembling hands. "Mary?" Her voice was devoid of emotion, sharp as a shard of ice. "I'm calling to tell you that David passed away this afternoon, a sudden heart attack at the office." The doctors couldn't do anything. I felt the world tilt on its axis. But before a single tear could fall, Beatrice continued, her tone turning venomous, "And don't bother coming to the city. The funeral will be private. David left everything to me, the firm and the accounts. You get nothing, not a single cent." "Don't call me again," she snapped before hanging up. I sat there, the phone pressed to my ear, listening to the dead dial tone. Any other mother would have collapsed in grief, but I didn't. Instead, I turned my head slowly to the right. There, sitting on the sofa next to me, pale and bandaged but very much alive, was my son, David. He had heard every word on the speakerphone. A grim, painful smile touched David's lips as he watched the woman he once loved reveal her true face. "She's efficient, isn't she, Mom?" David's voice was raspy, strained by the trauma of the past few days. Just 72 hours ago, he had barely escaped a staged car accident on a lonely stretch of highway. He had crawled from the wreckage, bleeding and broken, and instead of calling the police, he had crawled to me. We had spent the last 3 days in total secrecy. I had treated his wounds myself, using the skills I learned as a nurse decades ago. We didn't go to the hospital. We didn't call the firm. David knew that if Beatrice found out he was alive, she would finish the job. We needed her to believe she had won. We needed her to start moving the pieces of her crooked game so we could catch her in the act and bring her to justice. "She's already planning the funeral, David," I whispered, my hand still shaking. "She thinks she's the sole heir. She thinks I'm just a broken old woman she can throw away like trash." I looked at my son. He was a shell of the man he was a week ago, but in his eyes, I saw a fire I had never seen before. It wasn't just anger. It was the cold, hard resolve of a man who had seen the abyss and decided to climb back out to reclaim his life. David leaned back against the cushions, his eyes fixed on the ceiling. "Let her play her part, Mom. Let her talk to the lawyers. Let her try to sell the firm. The more she steals, the deeper the hole she digs for herself. She thinks I died in that car, but I died when I realized she never loved me. Now, only the architect remains. And I am going to design her downfall, brick by brick, until there is nothing left of her lies." The next morning, the news hit the Chicago papers. Brilliant architect David Miller dies. Suddenly, at 35, I watched the television reports of Beatrice dabbing fake tears at a press conference outside their downtown penthouse. She looked the part of the grieving widow, perfectly expensive black veil, trembling lower lip. She announced that in honor of her late husband, she would be taking over the management of Miller and Associates. I felt a surge of bile in my throat. She wasn't just stealing his money. She was stealing his legacy, the firm he had built with sweat and late nights. David watched the broadcast from the shadows of our kitchen, his face a mask of stone. "She doesn't even know the password to the secondary server," he muttered. "She's going to realize very soon that a dead man's company is harder to run than she thought." Later that day, Beatrice called again. She sounded triumphant. "I've checked the safe, Mary. The deeds are all in my name. I'm putting your house on the market next week. David used it as collateral for a loan I just discovered. You have 5 days to pack your things and find a nursing home. Consider it my final gift to you." She laughed, a high, shrill sound before cutting the line. She had no idea the house was safe. I looked at David. He stood up, despite the pain, and walked over to the desk where he had his laptop set up. His fingers flew across the keys. "She just signed into the offshore account," he said, a dark glint in his eyes. "She thinks she's transferring the funds to her private bank, but I've rerouted the trace. Every click she makes is being recorded. She's not just an heir, Mom, she's a thief, and I'm going to make sure the world sees it." The morning of the memorial service arrived with a gray, oppressive sky. I dressed in a simple black dress, my movements slow and deliberate. David watched me from the shadows of the hallway. "Be careful, Mom," he whispered, his voice a low rasp. "She'd be looking for any sign of weakness, any crack in your grief to exploit. Don't let her see you flinch. We need her to stay confident in her victory." I drove to the city, my hands gripping the steering wheel until my knuckles turned white. The church was one of Chicago's finest, a place David had helped restore years ago. As I walked up the stone steps, I saw the large portrait of my son near the entrance. He looked so full of life. It felt like a sick joke, seeing a memorial for a man who was currently sitting in my kitchen, hacking into the bank accounts of the woman weeping inside. Inside, the air was heavy with the scent of lilies and expensive perfume. Beatrice was in the front pew, surrounded by cameras and city figures. She was a vision of tragic beauty, a black lace veil covering her face, her shoulders shaking with practiced sobs. She was playing the role of the grieving queen to perfection. I took a seat far in the back, watching her every move like a hawk watching its prey, waiting for the right moment. During the eulogy, Beatrice stood up and walked to the pulpit. Her voice was steady, yet laced with a fake tremor. "David was my world," she told the crowd. "His dream was to expand Miller and Associates, and I promised to carry that torch. He wanted me to have everything, to protect his legacy from those who didn't understand his vision." She glanced toward the back, her eyes briefly locking onto mine with a cold, triumphant glint through the lace. After the service, the reception was held at their penthouse. I walked in, feeling like an intruder. Beatrice was holding a glass of champagne, laughing quietly with a man I recognized as David's main competitor, Marcus Thorne. They were standing too close, their heads leaned in together. The grieving widow had forgotten her role the moment the cameras were turned off. It was clear now that they were partners in this crime. I approached them and Beatrice's smile vanished. "Mary, I thought I told you not to come," she said, her voice dropping to a hiss. "You're making the guests uncomfortable with your gloom. David is gone, and so is your connection to this family. Why are you still here?" Marcus looked at me with bored indifference, as if I were a piece of old furniture he was planning to discard once the merger was finalized. "I came to say goodbye to my son's things, Beatrice," I said calmly, "and to see who is so eager to step into his shoes." She leaned in, her breath smelling of wine. "The shoes are mine now, Mary, and the house, and the firm. I've already signed the merger with Marcus. By tomorrow, Miller and Associates will no longer exist. Now, get out before I have security throw you out." She thought she had already won the war. I left without a word, but as I walked to my car, I felt a vibration in my pocket. It was a text from David. "I see them, Mom. I'm inside the penthouse security feed." She just handed Marcus the master key to the archive. "They're moving tonight. Get home fast. We have work to do." My heart raced. The trap was set, and Beatrice was walking straight into it, thinking she was the one holding the strings of the entire operation. Back at the house, the living room had been transformed into a digital war room. David had 3 monitors running, showing live feeds, bank transfers, and encrypted emails. "She's not just merging the company, Mom," David said, his eyes focused. "She's liquidating it. She's selling my designs to Marcus for pennies, and he's kicking back the rest to her offshore account. They've been planning this betrayal for months. How do we stop them?" I asked, looking at the complex graphs. David smiled, and for the first time, it wasn't a smile of pain. "We don't stop them yet. We let them finalize the transfer. The moment Beatrice clicks confirm, she's not just moving money, she's signing her own confession. I've installed a ghost protocol. The money won't go to her bank. It's going into a frozen account controlled by the authorities." The next 48 hours were a masterclass in deception. Beatrice had already moved into the CEO's office, replacing David's photos with abstract art. She was fast, but David was faster. From our living room, he had set up a logic bomb in the company's mainframe. Every time Beatrice tried to access a restricted file, the system sent her login credentials and GPS location directly to a secure folder we shared with our legal team. "She's meeting Marcus at the city's harbor warehouse tonight," David said, pointing to a decrypted email. "They're moving physical prototypes and hard drives containing 10 years of research. They want to leave the country tomorrow morning. If they get those drives on Marcus's private yacht, we'll never see that technology again." I felt a shiver of fear. This was no longer just about money. It was about protecting David's life's work. I looked at David. He was still pale, but his movements were stiff and determined. The bandages were gone, revealing a sharp jawline. "We have to go there, Mom," he said. "The police won't act on digital evidence alone until the crime is in progress. We need to catch them with the drives in their hands." I didn't hesitate for a second. "Then let's move," I replied, grabbing my car keys. We were no longer victims. We were the hunters. The Chicago harbor was a maze of rusted shipping containers and towering cranes. The wind from Lake Michigan was biting, smelling of salt and iron. We parked the car 2 blocks away and moved quietly through the shadows. My heart was pounding so hard I thought it would burst, but David's presence kept me steady. He moved like a ghost, his architectural knowledge helping him find paths through the crates that the cameras couldn't see. We reached Warehouse 14. Inside, through a cracked window, we saw Beatrice and Marcus. They were surrounded by silver equipment cases. Beatrice was holding a black hard drive as if it were a bar of solid gold. "Is it all here?" Marcus asked. Beatrice laughed. "Everything. David's genius, packaged and ready for our new life. The old man is dead, and the world belongs to us now." She had no idea how wrong she was. At that moment, David leaned into my ear. "Now, Mom, send the signal." I pulled out my phone and pressed a single button. Instantly, every light in the warehouse began to flicker and strobe. A high-pitched alarm began to wail, vibrating through the floorboards. Beatrice and Marcus froze, their faces turning from triumph to pure, unadulterated terror as the security system David designed turned against them. Then David stepped into the light of the warehouse doorway. He wasn't the broken man who had crawled to my porch. He stood tall, his silhouette framed by the flashing emergency lights. "The old man isn't as dead as you hoped, Beatrice," his voice thundered. Beatrice dropped the hard drive. It hit the concrete with a dull thud. Her scream was lost in the roar of the sirens that were already approaching from the distance. "David!" Beatrice gasped, her face turning a sickly shade of gray. She fell back against a crate, her hand over her heart. You're a ghost. You died in the car." David walked toward her, his footsteps steady. "I survived the car, Beatrice. But I didn't survive you. That man is gone. What's left is the man who's going to watch you lose everything you tried to steal." He looked at her with cold, unwavering eyes. Blue and red lights began to swirl outside. The police swarmed the building. Marcus tried to run, but he was tackled by officers before he could reach the exit. Beatrice stayed on the floor, staring at David as if he were a nightmare. "You can't do this," she whimpered. "I'm your wife." David didn't even blink. "No, You're a suspect in an attempted murder case. The betrayal was finally out in the open. I walked up to Beatrice as the officers reached for her. I leaned down, mirroring the way she had mocked me. 5 days to pack, you said? I think the state will give you plenty of time to pack for your new home. It's much smaller than the penthouse, but the security is excellent. I watched as they clicked the handcuffs on her wrists. The woman who tried to bury my son was finally going into a cage of her own making. The trial of Beatrice and Marcus became the scandal of the year. David testified for 3 grueling days. He presented every encrypted chat, every rerouted bank transfer, and the forensic evidence of the tampered brakes. As he spoke, the city watched a man rise from the dead to reclaim his honor. Beatrice, stripped of her luxury, could only stare at the floor. She had no defense against the truth David had meticulously gathered. Beatrice's defense team tried to claim she was under duress, but the recordings were undeniable. We heard her voice on tape, laughing about David's accident and planning to leave me homeless. The jury deliberated for less than 2 hours. Beatrice was sentenced to 15 years for attempted murder and grand larceny. Marcus received 12 years for conspiracy. Justice didn't just knock. It tore the door down and exposed their greed. Rebuilding the firm was the hardest project David had ever faced. Clients had fled, and the reputation was tarnished. But David didn't just restore the company, he transformed it. He dedicated a wing of his new designs to affordable housing for the elderly, a tribute to the protection I had given him. He became more than a successful architect. He became a pillar of the community, respected for his resilience as much as his talent. As for the penthouse, we sold it. David said it held too many ghosts of a woman who never truly loved him. Instead, he bought the empty lot next to my suburban house. He designed and built a stunning, modern glass villa there. Now, we are neighbors. Every Sunday, he comes over for dinner. But now, we don't just talk about work. We talk about the future, about hope, and about the family we've built through loyalty. One afternoon while gardening, I received a letter from the prison. It was from Beatrice. She was asking for a visitation, claiming she had found religion and wanted to apologize. I didn't even open the envelope. I walked to the trash can and dropped it in. Forgiveness is a gift, but trust is earned, and Beatrice had spent hers long ago. I didn't need her apologies to feel at peace. I had my son back. Now I look at David and see a man who was truly tested. He survived a crash, a betrayal, and an attempt to erase his existence. He taught me that no matter how well a villain designs their trap, they can never account for the strength of a mother's love. We aren't the victims of Beatrice's story anymore. We are the authors of our own. And our story is full of light, success, and a bond that even death couldn't break. Life has a way of balancing the scales. The woman who wanted to bury us is now a forgotten number in a cell. The man who was supposed to be dead is designing the skyline of tomorrow. As I watched the sun set over the lake, I realized that the architect of fate always saves the best designs for those who refuse to give up. Our journey was long and dark, but the dawn we found together is brighter than anything I ever imagined.